What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Coffee Hour Special Edition here on a Thursday evening. I'm excited for today's show because we're bringing on a special guest and we're going to have an interesting conversation. We're going to be talking about home inspectors and electrical and whatever else we end up talking about. So if you're a hater out there, get your fingers ready. If you're a fanboy out there, then we expect you to listen up. But again, we're liable to go all over the place. So I'm excited to welcome to the show Inspector Preston, who y'all know him, y'all love him. He's from over on all those social media, but he is a very respected home inspector. And here he is. And Preston, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul, how's it going?
All right, it's going good, my friend. Glad to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. There's been a lot of controversy this week, so I was actually really excited about doing this podcast with you.
Absolutely. So when you say controversy, first of all, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a certified master inspector. I'm in the state of New York. I'm way up here north of Binghamton, kind of south of Syracuse in upstate New York. I inspect almost exclusively vintage and antique homes. About 95% of what I inspect is over 150 years old.
Okay.
And so a lot of 200-year-old farmhouses, a lot of 300-year-old Revolutionary War era stuff. So that's kind of my forte is, my area is just really old houses. So I'm not a new build inspector. And I live in the middle of nowhere, Paul. I live out here in the middle of the forest. So there's not much around me at all.
Okay. Let's see here real quick, Preston. I'm needing to make sure that we turn up the volume a little bit here. So bear with me real quick while I crank up the volume. Get a little volume going on this thing. So, okay. Of course, it wouldn't be a show, Preston, if I didn't have issues, right?
Yeah, technology is amazing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So anybody out there that's listening, let me know the audio is okay, that you can hear Preston okay, you can hear me. I'm loudmouth anyway, so I'm sure you can hear me. I want to make sure that Preston's audio is up at a good level. And double checking here. Preston, let's see here. Let's talk about, let me make sure, take this off. Do this here. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Okay, there we go. I gotta make sure you don't get that background. Okay. All right, you there?
I'm here.
All right, that's better. Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit again, real quick. So for those that came in late, we you can't have a show without some technical difficulties. Hopefully. I won't scare Preston away, and we'll do some other episodes in the future. But we want to make sure the audio is okay. So again, Preston, tell us a little bit again about where you are, what you do, how long you've been doing it, and I believe you are a member of NACHI, right? InterNACHI?
Yeah, so I'm a member of InterNACHI, and I'm also I'm nationally certified through the NHIE. I'm up here in upstate New York, so we're freezing our ass off. As I mentioned before, so for all the new people that are just jumping on, I specialize in vintage and antique homes.
Okay.
Almost everything that I inspect is at least 100, 150 years old, a lot of 200-year-old stuff, even 300-year-old Revolutionary War era homes. That's my specialty. I love vintage homes, post and beam, balloon frame stuff. And so that's really kind of the angle that I specialize in.
Wow. That's sounds like a lot of pre-code stuff. Sounds like a lot of old stuff. So there's no way you can be having any controversy on electrical stuff, right? I mean, there's no way that you could, on social media, again, social media is full of experts, right? So what's spawned this want desire to collaborate? Kind of go into a little bit.
Yeah, so as you know, we do share some similarities. We've had some similar things in our past. There is a whole community of people out there, both inspectors, electricians, plumbers, you name it. There's contractors out there that are salivating at the opportunity to prove somebody wrong. And so what happens in the comments a lot of times is like you try to make a point and you say something and then it goes down these weird rabbit holes. And that's what happened this week. So when I reached out to you, I'm like, hey, Paul, can you chime in on this? Let me know what you think. And you're like, yeah, no problem. So that video went from 15,000 views this morning. It is now up to like 70 something thousand views, and the comments are just blowing up.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess we'll talk about all different topics, but I guess is the elephant in the room to have the discussion about what's causing all this. Because people know me. I tell people all the time, I got my haters that come onto my social media platforms and their posts. Nobody knows who you are, Paul. You don't have but so many thousand followers. And I'm like, yeah, because I ban half the people that come to my site. And most of the time I don't listen to them anyway. So I'm not about the clicks. So tell me, what causes this? What's your controversy?
All right. So it's interesting. I'm a home inspector, right? And as you know, we come at home inspections differently than code inspectors, code enforcement, or even electrical inspections, right? Yep. So we're mostly safety focused,
right?
And so we're not so much code focused. What we do is rooted in code, and yes, it's important to understand code, but mostly what we're doing in a home inspection is letting people know where safety hazards or safety concerns exist. The problem, in my opinion, and what I tried to do this week was I did a video talking about GFCI protection.
Okay.
And what I see a lot, and I hear from realtors a lot, is that sometimes we home inspectors cause a lot of drama in the transactions, calling out things that are nothing burgers. So what happens is a lot of times these inspectors come in with their little plug-in, 3-light testers. They plug it into a GFCI receptacle and they hit the button and it doesn't trip it. So they write it up in the report. It shows up in red. It says everybody's going to die. And
you mean the little 3-light we used to call the dummy testers, the little 3-light reverse polarity, yada, yada, yada. And then they got smarter and added a GFCI. And they even gotten smarter now. They've added an AFCI to some of them. You mean those little things?
Those little things, those little unreliable things. So these cheap little plastic testers.
Well, when a voltmeter costs you hundreds, but you can get a little $25 tester, 3-light tester, and of course it's magic, right?
It's really funny how much faith we put in those things. Yeah. So as an inspector, I want to be thorough, but I also want to be accurate. Sure. And I don't tend to come from a CYA perspective. I'm not constantly trying to cover my ass by just calling out crazy stuff. And there are a lot of inspectors that do that.
Right.
And I think it's important to be both educated and also be accurate.
Sure.
And so when I got to this house and I went, it had a GFCI receptacle on the left next to the kitchen sink. And on the right, it had a 3-prong receptacle. And so what I did was I plugged in my tester to the outlet on the right, the receptacle. I went to the left and I hit the test button and it shut off. That is a proper and valid test. The problem was when I reset the button and then I hit the GFCI test button, it didn't trip the outlet, the GFCI. And so I knew that
was that you used let's go back. Mm-hmm. So you had a GFCI receptacle device in one receptacle. Is feeding the downstream one on the right.
Correct.
You put the 3-light tester in the one on the right that didn't have GFCI?
Correct.
It didn't have a device in it. You pushed the test button and it did what?
It did nothing. It did not trip anything.
Okay. You went to the GFCI on the left. You pushed the test button that's built into the device, and then what did it do?
It shut off the
3-light tester. It shut it off and the one downstream, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right.
I checked both.
And that's what you posted online, right?
That was part 1. That was the video number 1. So what happened was it was really interesting because as soon as I posted that video, the comments blew up with everybody saying it must have a bootleg ground, must have a missing ground, Now, at the original inspection, I had taken the plates off and I had inspected those, and then I did a continuity test. I used my outlet tracer, went back to the panel, made sure there was continuity between the ground and the panel. So I knew everything was good. So I did this educational video to try to help home inspectors not make that mistake of putting a big red hazard in the report saying everybody's going to die. This GFCI is defective because my little plastic tester didn't trip it.
So let me explain this to people that are watching and people that will watch in the future. you're making a video to help other home inspectors.
Correct.
You're not in the business of training electricians. They might watch your video,
Right.
and there may be other home inspectors out there somewhere in the West Coast or somewhere that does videos that he thinks he's training electricians, but you're a home inspector. Let's understand that. Home inspectors are generalists. We don't expect them to be experts in any one thing. We expect them to be extremely well versed in many areas, right?
Yeah, and it's weird how there's some inspectors in some places, and they seem to kind of center around Arizona.
I didn't say it. You said it. I didn't say it just so because the hate mail's already coming from the fanboys. But anyway, keep on.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do was try to help home inspectors understand that those little 3-light testers, those little plug-in testers, are not actually a valid or reliable way of testing GFCI protection. They work most of the time, but they don't work all of the time. And most of the time is not good enough or accurate enough for me. Now, I had to do my research. One of my very best friends is an electrical inspector, and he is one of the smartest people I know. His name's Yuri Badovich. If you guys know him.
Shout out to Yuri.
Yuri, you're smart, dude. I love you, man. He used to have a TikTok channel called Inspection Therapy. Now, this guy is extremely knowledgeable, and we used to talk all the time, and we talked quite a bit about this, and he pointed me to the fact that the only valid test of a GFCI receptacle is using the built-in test button on it. That everything else is inferior to that.
Well, everything else is an ancillary test device. So when the manufacturer sells a product that comes with a test feature in it, it's part of the UL listing. It's part of its evaluation. It's designed to work. The problem with the 3-light testers is y'all all know it. First of all, when somebody said bootleg, the question is when you put the receptacle tester in the right side, did it show that it had a ground?
It did. So the green, and it's in the video, the original video, the green light's on, shows it's properly wired. And as you know, a bootleg ground, and that's why I took the plate off, by the way.
Yeah.
Because when my button didn't trip it, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a bootleg ground, so I pulled the plate off. And then I also pulled the plate off of the GFCI receptacle to make sure that, line and load were proper. So before I left, I wanted to be thorough to make sure that I wasn't leaving a safety hazard behind.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
But when I went in, I saw the ground going right into the Romex jacketing, did the continuity test to the panel. I was satisfied that things were wired properly. The test button worked properly. I knew everything was right. Okay. So I wasn't calling out a defect. And then what happened was I was getting this blowback from home inspectors going, yeah, I would definitely call that out. I would have put that in the report. I would have been extra cautious to cover my ass. And that was really my big issue, is that people that cover their ass by being overly cautious also are less accurate and are causing a lot of drama in the transactions.
Well, I've said this for years, as most people out there know, that I wrote the original electrical program for InterNACHI. And it was their consultant for years. I've written a lot of stuff for the home inspection industry. So people hear me on here a lot of times, they think I'm hating on home inspectors. Look, I know the difference. There are some home inspectors who don't stay in their line. And then there's the ones that shine like you do. You know what your focus is. And you're trying to educate others in the industry. Because what I've said for years, and you'll agree, I assume you agree to this, is that home inspectors are not there to be over alarmists. We're there to give you the facts the way we see it. We can make safety recommendations that are based on historical understanding of the way the code is changed. For example, if I'm a home inspector and I'm doing an inspection, and there's always this thing called tactfulness that you have to add to reports. So that you're not causing it so that, one, you're labeled a deal killer, right? You're not going to get more business from that real estate agent or anybody else if you're a deal killer. And people say, I don't care, because it's not like we're just inspecting D.R. Horton homes every day, okay? I mean, I doubt you ever inspect a D.R. Horton home.
I've never inspected a D.R. Horton home.
So look, I can't help it if the homes are built shitty. They're built shitty. I mean, let's talk about what the inspector that does the municipal should have found before it got to that stage that a home inspector found it. Let's talk more about their accountability, because I don't necessarily think that I want a home inspector finding this stuff. I want the damn municipality guy to be finding this shit. But anyway, I digress. So the thing about reports is that, and you're absolutely correct, the problem is if you cause a problem and an electrician has to come out and fix that, you might say, well, come out and fix it. The electrician's going to come out and look at that and say, this is perfectly fine. Maybe I got to you want me to pull a new circuit to get you an equipment ground there? You want me to do that? I'm going to charge you extra money. The homeowner's going to decide they don't want to do it. The people that are buying it and saying, I'm not buying this house unless you do it. And remember, a home inspection is nothing more than a negotiation.
That's right.
There's no requirement.
That's right.
You don't have to get a home inspection. It's between buyer and seller, right?
Yep.
That's it. Now, whether they want to fix something, they could say piss on you and they don't fix it. So, but you're right. If the receptacle works and it trips, now, am I going to put it in my report? Probably, yes. I'm going to mention it. I'm going to say that this is what it probably is, but I'm going to leave it up to them to make that determination. I am not going to be flaming this thing out as a major defect because the device text part. Now, I may question it over at the receptacle if I'm getting it shows that there's an equipment ground, but now that device is not tripping it, because the concept of the 3-light tester is that the reason it doesn't work on a 3-light tester is because it shunts it to an equipment ground.
Correct.
It doesn't shunt it through the neutral.
Through the neutral, right.
The actual GFCI device puts a resistor in there and it moves the circuit temporarily outside of the toroidal coil. And that creates an imbalance, and that's why you want to use the device's test button.
Test button, right. Now, let me stop you there, because I want to hone in on this for a second, because what you just said is so important. And in the second video, which is the one that's kind of going crazy right now.
I haven't seen either one, by the way, so okay. Now
here's the interesting thing. There is no shortage of people in there telling me I'm a moron. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I need to find.
Hey, I've heard that too. Yeah. So, I'm a hack, by the way. Right. So most of the electricians out there who want to argue with me say you're a hack. That's why you teach, because you can't do. And I'm like, it doesn't take you much to Google that. Yeah, I did do it, but that's okay. Right. I don't mind it. Go ahead.
Listen, man, Yuri was the first one that introduced me to you, and this was 3-4 years ago. And he said, people questioning Paul are stupid because they don't realize he actually wrote portions of the NEC. Like, you're not a nobody in the industry. The people who know. But here's what happened. I was trying to think of, when you see the bulk of the comments are talking about the issue must be a missing ground. It must be a bootleg ground. It must be the ground. And I was thinking to myself, all of these people are missing the point that the test button on the device actually doesn't use the ground to test it. And that's why it's a more valid test. All those cheap little plastic testers are shunting to the ground, and not all all receptacles are actually going to trip. Mm-hmm. So does that mean it's a safety hazard? Does that mean it's a defect that goes in the report? And I was trying to explain. So in my second video, what I said was, and again, I inspect almost exclusively vintage and antique homes. I know that in old 2-wire systems, when you see people put three-prong receptacles in them, I have to tell clients daily that's not code compliant, and that is actually a safety hazard. However, if GFCI protect that outlet, that's a code compliant way of making that outlet more safe.
So that's the picture that you share with me that somebody commented saying that open ground. So let's dig that a little bit. You do exclusively older type homes.
Correct.
A lot of the ones you may do may not even have an equipment ground.
Most of them don't, actually. I inspect a lot of knob and tube, a lot of snake skin wiring, a lot of like really old 2-prong stuff.
So you're trying to educate the home inspectors who may not be familiar. I mean, there are some home inspectors out there, which, again, for the record, I am not against home inspectors. I love them. I believe it's an opportunity when they get inspections to be the eyes and ears that we as electricians can't have, because we don't get into as many panels as y'all guys do. So when people spread things out there, I don't believe home inspectors should be opening panels. I'm a totally opposite of that. I'm like, they should be opening panels. They just need to understand the concept of safety. No need to reach in. And if you do, use something that's non-conductive to move something out of the way. I need your eyes. I need you looking at things, but I also need you to be educated, because there's so many people that put out fake bull.
Paul. Listen, I remember 3 years ago, I caught hell in one of the home inspector Facebook groups. It turned into a big bash fest. I just got dogpiled because one of my methodologies is I use my insulated screwdriver. when I get into a house, in old houses, and you're going to laugh when you hear this, home inspectors all the time are calling out solid strand aluminum in these old houses that is actually tinned copper. And so what I do to make it visual in the report is I take my insulated flat tip screwdriver and I scrape the tinning off the outside to show the copper conductor. I take a picture of that, I put it in the report, and I say that it's a copper wire. So I immediately got dogpiled by all these home inspectors saying, never reach in the panel, never stick things in the panel. I'm just like, oh my God, man.
So most of that, for those out there that are home inspectors watching, most of that tinned copper has more of a rubberish type of insulation. It's thicker. It looks rubbery. It usually looks frayed at the ends right before the conductor. It's not as clean cut as copper clad aluminum or something like that, or aluminum wire that uses more of a thermoplastic insulation. The older stuff that we would get with the tin, the insulation just looks spongy. It looks thicker.
And this is why a lot of home inspectors mistake it for solid strand aluminum, right? And so this is very common in our industry and in my area for home inspectors to improperly call that out as a defect or a safety concern, when all they had to do was just use an insulated screwdriver to see if it was actually copper or not. So
or if they can get to it, they can look at the end. I do have a lot of inspectors that will actually, you ever use the scopes with the camera with the little end on it that you put down and up in the ceiling and look around?
Sure. Bore scopes, I use it every day.
I've had some that actually will take the bore scope because they can hold it at an angle and stick it in the panel and look at the end of conductors, and you can see the copper tips on the end. And so
that's a good point. I try to make things visual in my report, but it's really interesting when you see people who will dogpile you and tell you you're a moron. When
easy to do that.
Right. And this happened this week with that thing going, oh, you're an idiot. You said GFCI is an appropriate fix for open grounds. And then they get into this weird rabbit hole of code says this and code says that, and you're an idiot. And I'm just like, you guys are missing the point. What I was trying to say was GFCI, that the internal testing doesn't use a ground. And I was trying to explain why code would never allow GFCI protection on a two-prong outlet, on a open ground, if GFCI needed a ground to function properly.
Yeah, there wouldn't be an allowance in Article 406 to allow you to, if you're doing a replacement of a non-grounding type receptacle with a grounding type, as long as you have GFCI protection upstream. The code wouldn't allow that.
That was my point. And that was the point everybody missed, is they were like, oh my God, they're drooling. Inspector Preston made a mistake. Let's prove him wrong.
They can't wait to jump on you, right?
Oh man. And I'm like, you guys are missing the point.
So tell me, Inspector Preston, is it a GFCI or are they correcting you and telling you to call it GFI?
So you must have seen the comments. Yeah. I had electricians telling me I'm an idiot and I need to call it a GFI like all the real electricians do.
Oh, let me address that. You electricians that say that, for the record, you're full of shit. It's a ground fault circuit interrupter. It's not a GFI. So don't get confused with GFP, with GFI as a general statement versus a GFCI, which is a circuit interrupter. Terminology is key. And here's the big thing. Preston, you're not new to this. 9 out of 10 electricians don't like home inspectors.
Right.
You want to know why? It's because a vast majority of the home inspectors out there will blaze everything in a report and call out all this stuff. An electrician goes out there and finds that that's not a problem. And then what do they say? My brother, I love my brother. He's the best electrician I've probably ever known. I learned everything that I know from my brother. He was my inspiration growing up. I had other mentors, but my brother's a little older than me. I saw him one Christmas get a set of tools when I was 15 years old, and he literally had an orgasm over a set of electrical tools. He was in the apprenticeship program. He was in a program at school. I said, dude, if it feels that good to get a set of damn tools, I want to be in that. So I joined the program when I got into 11th grade, and I excelled at it. My brother was the inspiration for that. And, and I have very few heroes, but he's one of them. And And so at the end of the day, I laugh because even he will say that about home inspectors. Why? Because sometimes home inspectors will call things out in the way they do it. And you think, well, the electrician shouldn't get upset because they're getting paid to come and do more work. No, it flames on the electrician as if they did something wrong, and they didn't, right? And so inspectors call something out,
So in a lot of my content, you'll see that I'm actually pretty hard on unethical realtors, right? And I bash on the unethical realtors because it reflects poorly on the good realtors, the good ethical people.
Yes.
And it's the same in our industry. The inspectors that are out there, the home inspectors that are out there writing up all these nothing burgers just out of CYA. I'm just going to cover my ass and put it in the report.
Just throw everything in the report. If you question it, just throw it in the report.
Right. So then when the electrician shows up and goes, what the hell is this guy talking about? Your home inspector's an idiot. Well, I'm a home inspector, so now electricians think I'm an idiot.
Right.
So this stuff is important to me, and I try to educate other inspectors. I try to share knowledge. And it's funny when you put yourself out there like this week to see how they all get down these weird rabbit holes. I'm telling you, 90% of the comments assume that there's no ground in that circuit, even though I literally showed it in the video, even though the green light on the tester, even though I showed the test button functioning properly, the bulk of the comments are, yeah, it's a bad ground. It's a bootleg ground. There's no ground. And you're just like, you know what? Ground actually doesn't have anything to do with GFCI protection.
If it did, we wouldn't have the ability to add it. Now, again, at the end of the day, there's circuits with an equipment ground. GFCIs do not take the place of a proper today grounded system that's run. That's the way we have to do it today. So there's no argument whether or not which is safer, the GFCI or the have an equipment ground. It doesn't matter because in today's installations, you got to have an equipment ground. There's no way around it, right?
Like, okay, I probably
look at the comment. Look at the comments.
Yeah, Michael McDade, home inspectors are idiots.
I mean, I would bet that Michael, you're an electrician, right? But I get. But he puts the funny faces, so I know he's playing. But there are some really good ones. But again, I think that all home inspectors should take an electrical course. Not mine, because I don't have a course available for home inspectors. That's like through InterNACHI and whatnot, like that type of thing. A home inspector, But I think that a healthy understanding of what you don't know is sometimes better than what you think you do know.
Yeah, I think that the bigger issue for me this week was trying to raise awareness on the fact that we have far too much faith placed in these stupid plastic little plug-in testers.
Oh, yeah.
Far too much faith. And if we're using that cheap little tester to call out defects in an electrical system, I got a problem with that because code and manufacturers say this is the right way to do it.
Let's not remove the fact that there's nothing wrong with using the testers for speed. Okay, if you're a municipality, you're required in many states to do a representative sampling. And in my inspectors that I used to train, I didn't care. I want you to test everything, right?
Listen, on every inspection, I test every single receptacle that I can get to. Anything that's accessible, I will test it. I don't do representative numbers of anything. I test all windows. I test all cabinet doors, all drawers, all outlet. So I'm not a representative numbers kind of guy. I want to be thorough, right? If there's one outlet that has a problem, I want to find it.
Absolutely.
And I also will say, and I think this is important to put out there, that I won't put content out and argue in the comments with people unless I'm actually educated about what I'm talking about. Like there are times I put stuff out there and I go, oh, maybe I'm wrong. I won't argue about it. I'll listen and I'll educate myself. But there are times when I go, you guys are all missing the point.
Well, you know what? It's funny you should say that because people say, Paul, you block people. And yeah, I do. I guarantee you I block. For every 3 people, I block them. And the reason they say, well, why? Paul doesn't allow for a good debate. First of all, Paul has no desire to debate with you. After 40 years serving on multiple code panels, over 11 patents to my name, serving on code committees, writing books, authoring, I'm not going to put something out there online unless I believe it. So guess what? You're not going to change my opinion.
I wish more people thought about that, Paul. Honestly, so think about all the content you've put out over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing this a long time.
Oh,
Every single piece of content you put into the webosphere, is an opportunity for people to attack you, belittle you, criticize you, judge you,
Put yourself out there, right?
And so the fact that you continuously do it and you're dedicated to it and you're consistent with it, I don't think a lot of people that sit behind their keyboards know what it's like to record a video about something and put it out into the world.
And they don't. And the fact of the matter is, I love the one I get where they say Paul teaches it because he can't do it. That's the one that always gets me, because you know what? I can still get around. If you're in the area near me and you want a wire challenge, you want to see if I still know how to wire, bring your shit. Because my brother will tell you I still know how to wire, because he's a contractor here in Virginia and I routinely go help him. And so I always tell people, look, I ain't in the grave yet, but if you want to talk shit, then just Google a little bit. But at the end of the day, I still love it. People think I get upset about it, and actually offline, it's like me and Mike Holt. I tell you, everybody thinks me and Mike Holt don't get along. I love Mike. Mike, we talk all the time. He texts me. He calls me out of the blue and asks how my wife's doing, everything. I see him at all events. We go out, eat dinner. And the one thing we laugh about is how everybody thinks we don't get along. And he might say something about me. I might say something about him. And at the end of the day, it's all hype and we're laughing about it. But, you know, he's amazing to the industry and I love him. He's a great guy. Mario and Mario's great that works with him. Brian House is great. They're all great people. But again, I love the fact that they think we don't get along.
Paul, look up here. So Terrence Grace, 8716. There's somebody that gets it, right?
So Terrence is up in Maryland. Now, Terrence, he comes to our coffee hour a lot. Great electrician.
Listen, I'm going to say something right now that I've always wondered. Us home inspectors get a lot of shit from all the contractors. The plumbers hate us. The electricians hate us. Carpenters hate. Anyway, so the funny thing is that my job every day, hundreds of times, is to say, here's a problem. I recommend calling a qualified contractor to get this repaired.
Yeah.
We're literally out there pushing people to find you and do business with you. And at the same time, you're shitting on us for doing that. It makes no sense.
I say embrace the relationship with your home inspectors, because they're the ones that are going to bring you money. Also, if you're the electrician that gets been out of shape because of it, because of something a home inspector says, and you don't take the opportunity to educate the home inspector because they're not the expert in electrical, I just hope that you're knowledgeable enough to be able to actually educate the home inspector and don't get trashed in the process. They want to learn too. And at the end of the day, form that relationship, because you're right. They all make you money. I'm like, okay, want me to come look at your panel? That's fine. You want me to come to it? Yeah, that's fine. I just think people forget that.
I agree. I like to be controversial. I'm like you, Paul. I don't mind saying shit. I catch a lot of crap for it. And I don't mind defending the controversial things I say. All right, I'll say something right now that I know you're probably going to disagree with, but you might agree with a component of it.
Hold on. I got music for this. Hold on. Let me see. What are you going to do here? Hold on. Let's see what I got.
Drum roll?
No. Let's see what I got on the sounds here.
All right. Tee it up, guys. All you electricians are going to get ready to shit on me right now because I'm going to say something super controversial.
All right, here we go. Oh, that's not it. Wait a minute. Damn it. I wanted to give you some. Okay, here we go. I don't hear anything. Shit on it. I don't hear anything. All right, sorry. I was going to give you some scary music in the background, but anyway, go ahead.
I heard it.
Did you?
All right, I'm going to say this right now. You guys break out your phones, record Inspector Preston saying this.
Oh, God.
Fuses are safer.
Now I'm scared. All right.
Fuses are safer than breakers.
That's not controversial because that's 100% correct.
Thank you.
Because a fuse blows.
They don't. They blow faster. They do less damage to the components,
and you can't reset them every time they blow. You got to replace them.
Right. They don't fail. So, do you know how much shit I have gotten from electricians and other home inspectors by making that argument that the reason fuses became less safe was because of human error and how they were using it? People sticking coins and bullets and create, oversized,
S-type fuses, circumventing them, putting coins behind them. Yep. How many pictures have you seen where they take a fuse holder and they're actually sticking something in there to replace a fuse, like a piece of rebar, something stupid as shit. Just doing stupid stuff. Stupid is as stupid does. So But a breaker gets hot. A breaker has a mechanical component. They have working parts inside of it. A fuse does not. It has a fuse element that when you overload it, so I tell people out there, okay, overcurrent is an element of short circuit, ground fault, and overload. 3 elements, okay? That's what makes up overcurrent. You can have an overcurrent by putting too much current through it, okay? You can have an overload by putting too much current through it. You can have a short circuit by putting too much current through it. All of those are part of overcurrent. A fuse is very reliable. Remember when people used to throw shit on Federal Pacific? And yeah, they had some problems. Everybody says there was a recall. No, it was a class action thing in upstate New York area, and they're still using that design stab locks in Canada. Okay, Schneider owns it, by the way. At the end of the day, Federal Pacific made some really nice fused products. Very robust, well-made fused products.
All right, and I'm glad you brought up Federal Pacific because I did have a topic I wanted to cover on that.
Oh, I was going to say, you do have some topics you wanted to ask, so.
Right. Yeah. So no, but on this point with fuses, you're going to notice a couple of things that nobody ever really wants to talk about. Number one, if breakers if they were safer or more effective, they would use them in vehicles and they would use them at data centers with sensitive equipment. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting when you look at how they wire up data centers, they're not using breaker switches because breaker switches can take 10 to 15 times longer to trip, which allows a lot more time for damage to sensitive components.
It's also much easier to understand the trip curve on a fuse than it is on the trip curves of the latching on and off of a circuit breaker. So a lot of times in systems that are very sensitive or volatile, it can be better for design professionals to use fuses. But I'm not shitting on the breakers because, breakers, they're very, a molded case circuit breaker is very reliable. That type of thing. I hear a lot of crap about them. But if you're putting it in the context of safety, they're both overcurrent protected devices. So let's get that out of the way. They both will do their job. But at the end of the day, fuses have less failure points in them. They simply have...
Yep. Breakers fail. Circuit breakers fail a lot. There's a lot of recalls out there. So at the end of the day, when I say controversial...
I don't know that I've ever seen a fuse recall.
I don't think I have. They don't fail. A fuse pops.
A fuse blows and a fuse blows.
Yep. All right. So Federal Pacific, here's an interesting thing. And I'm going to get into Federal Pacific and Challenger, right? Because I think these are two things that kind of in some ways get a bad rap. But the one thing that I've always wondered about Federal Pacific, I'm still required by my insurance company to call out Federal Pacific panels.
Sure. Same as you're still required to call out aluminum wire, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting about aluminum, right? Is being able to figure out whether it's, the AA8000, like the old stuff, Well,
AA8000 is the new stuff. 1350 is the old stuff.
Right. Sorry, I got that backwards.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So if it's the newer stuff, a lot of that AA8000 stuff is actually perfectly fine. You got to be one conductor size up, one gauge up, but it's interesting when you have to learn the stuff.
Typically 2 sizes jumps up. So you skip one, go to the second. So theoretically, it's 2 sizes larger for the same amount of current. For example, a 500 copper, and then it would be equivalent to a 750 aluminum. So there is a 600 between there.
Okay.
So it's typically a jump, but sometimes it can be even more than that. But basically, you're right. I mean, there's a jump there. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Hey, I just learned something. So thank you for that.
People say I don't know anything, yet I hold 11 patents on wiring cable, but Paul doesn't know anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no. And so understanding that the old brittle aluminum, the AA1350, is actually usually pretty easy to identify. And when you see modern, NM cable that is the newer 8000 type, there's still home inspectors every day that call that out as a defect. They call it out as a safety hazard. They flash it in red, and you're like, yeah, but after 1973, they came out with different, alloys. They came out with different.
Yeah, so just to clear for those that are listening, so the reason 1350 was used years ago, so those that want to know, maybe they don't want to know. Maybe they say Paul's talking too damn much, but I don't care. 1350 was an answer to shortages of copper. It was an answer to, well, the industry said, well, what are we using to transmit power out on the power lines? And they were like, oh, it's 1350 aluminum, just another mix of an alloy, different components. And they said, well, shit, if it works there, it's got to work in a building. So that's why they did it, to combat a shortage. The problem with 1350, and it's still used today, still can use it outside of a building. The NEC says it has to be 8000 series if it's in a building, but you can still use it outside. That's why you get USC-2 made of 1350. You can use it from a pad over to the point of attachment of the house, whatever. The problem is the 1350, a really good tensile strength.
Yeah,
right?
it was brittle.
It hangs on lines. It's good tensile. It didn't have good ductileness.
Correct.
So the more you bend it, it would build up heat and the molecules would start to rapidly expand and it would snap. 8000 acts almost exactly like copper. Yep. So that was the big change. And of course, UL and NEC caught up with that and, that type of thing. But you still have to call out the aluminum, even though today, as a manufacturer of wire and cable, I could make non-metallic sheath cable today with aluminum conductors if I wanted to. We're not going to touch it. Hey, folks out there, don't go to Southwire or Encore Wire or Prismium and say, hey, are you going to make an aluminum NM cable? No, we're not, because it's too stigmatized to want to mess with. You got other brands out there that use aluminum and put some copper on it, but I don't want to talk about that. But at the end of the day, it's still aluminum. So,
and that stigmatized right there is a good point, right? And that's really what we're talking about with a lot of this stuff, including Federal Pacific, right? It's a stigma. All right. So an interesting question I had for you, and this was something I was aware of years ago, is we call out Federal Pacific panels as if they're a ticking time bomb. And yet when you research it, you find out it was actually the breakers that failed to trip. It was the circuit breakers.
Yeah.
And so
Federal Pacific.
For Federal Pacific, right.
Yep.
And so what's happening is there are companies out there, I'm aware of one at least, that makes a UL-approved retrofit kit for Federal Pacific with modern circuit breakers. They're tested and they're very reliable. And I always wondered why we always swap the panels out when everything's in good shape and really all you need is reliable circuit breakers.
Okay, I could address that. Okay, so people like there's companies like Challenger. There's other ones that have been absorbed by other companies that make, Eaton makes those aftermarket breakers as well. The different ones, they make different breakers. There's a thing called Magnus-Moss Act that people seem to think when you buy a panel. In a new installation, you have to use the manufacturer's breakers that go with that panel.
Yep.
On a repair or remodel or replacement or after the fact, the Magnus-Moss Act says that you can use any breaker that has been classified for use in that equipment and evaluated for it. It doesn't change the warranty. It doesn't lose any warranty. It didn't matter if next week I have a Cutler hammer and somebody comes in and puts one of those breakers in there that is classified. It doesn't change the warranties. That's the first thing to get out of the way. Secondly, I've been saying this for decades. The only reason it becomes a problem is usually those old Federal Pacifics didn't have a lot of breakers. So that's a good thing. Because if they didn't have a lot of breakers, the easiest thing to do is to say, hey, my recommendation is, if you're worried about it, is to just replace the breakers. Now, yes, the breakers cost $200 or whatever the hell the breakers cost. When you do the math, you might say, well, shit, I can get a brand new panel with, Square D or Eaton, and for I'm out of touch with costs. So $15 a breaker. I don't know what. So at the end of the day, it's cheaper. I'm like, is it though? Because now you got to hire the labor of ripping out the panel, doing a service change, putting in a new panel. Or as an electrician, I can come out there and say, here's what I can do. I can get you replacement breakers, replace the ones that are in question, because you're right. The study did not show that there was a problem with two-pole breakers or larger breakers. It showed the problem was with smaller breakers. And even then, the Consumer Product Safety Commission could not verify that there was any fires that were result of. They couldn't go into more detail where they initiate a recall. There was no recall. So there was no official nationwide recall. And the data was dubious, although they did mislead people in getting their listing. But at the end of the day, they said it in the report that it probably would have failed before it got to the level that it caused a fire.
So then, all right, and so then we have the same stigma with Challenger. Most home inspectors call out Challenger panels as hazardous, and yet when I researched that and I found out it was really just a couple of circuit breakers that were recalled, and then I think about it and I go, how many breakers do we have that are recalled from Square D?
I just posted, what was it last year? There was a massive recall on some breakers and panels for Square D. Not hating on you, Square D. I'm saying it was just a massive recall, and it kind of was up there, and then all of a sudden it just went away.
Right. So we're going to give Square D a pass.
Oh yeah,
having defective breakers, but we're going to call out Challenger panels. So I don't call out Challenger panels in my reports. If everything is in good shape, I don't see corrosion. I don't see, I don't see scorching. I don't see any problem. That panel looks clean and nice and everything's in good shape. I'm not calling out that Challenger panel as a safety concern.
Look, I've seen some Federal Pacifics in my day, and I'm on video for Internachi actually looking and inspecting a Federal Pacific panel in their video. So, okay, some people, maybe some inspectors out there that went through Internachi that took their electrical program and they say, who the hell is Paul? And they didn't see the fact that my name is on it because I helped write it. That's okay. But at the end of the day, I've had panels that look like you can eat out of it. And no corrosion, no pitting. And we're going to talk about Zinsco in just a second. So no pitting, no nothing, no heat, no evidence. And again, I embrace thermal imaging. Many people know out there that I wrote courses on thermography. And again, it can speak to that and have for years. At the end of the day, I'm not going to tell somebody just because it's something. I'll mention it because your insurance may require it and stuff like that, right? I'll mention it, but it's not my decision. It's their decision. It's whoever wants to look at it that way and make that decision. But like you said, insurances sometimes make me have to call stuff out. So I at least say what it is. And part of your inspection is required to at least say what it is what you're looking at.
Yeah, so I put general notes in. In our inspection reports, there's different types of narratives, right? We have informational notes. These are like comments. Then we have maintenance defect narratives, like maintenance items, material defects, or safety hazards, right? So there's different types of narratives in an inspection report. And I'll put a general note in there to say, you have a Challenger panel. Everything appeared to be in satisfactory condition. There were no material defects or deficiencies observed. Some insurance companies won't insure homes with a Challenger panel. I'll put it in there so that they know about it.
Has it gotten to that point with the Challenger? I remember that it was said about Federal Pacific or Zinsco, but has it really gotten to where it is a lot of Challengers also come into the mix more?
Yep. In my area, it's not often, but occasionally we see it a lot with VA and a lot of the government-backed loans. So FHA, VA, HUD, USDA. And they'll have that list. It'll say Federal Pacific, Zinsco, Pushmatic, Bulldog, Challenger, Federal Pacific, Federal Canadian. It goes right down the list. And so they just kind of blanket that stuff because all they're doing is risk management.
Some of the best panels that I've ever looked at reliable have been, Pushmatics. And people want to give them a hard ass time too as well. And I'm like, and that's the next question people ask. Is there a life? I get this question a lot. When I was with NEMA, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, I was the expert for NEMA for years. So I get this question and they say, hey, wait a minute, Preston, this is a Pat Paul time. Paul was the expert. People say Paul talks about himself all the time. He's so happy with himself. Point being that in that scenario with NEMA, we looked at it all the time and people would say I lost my train of thought. Preston, help me out. What was I?
The Bulldog.
Okay, yeah. So we looked at these, and they would say they're life expectancy. First of all, the manufacturer will never give life expectancy. Why? Because the moment that I tell you that you got to replace a breaker in 20 years, my competitor is going to tell me theirs lasts 21. The next one's going to say theirs lasts 22. So it's an open thing that all manufacturers understand. We're not going to give life expectancy. We don't do that with wire. We don't do that with anything. That's the reason.
Case in point, we see that exact thing happening with roofing. Asphalt shingles now, we're seeing architectural shingles claiming 50-year lifespan.
Yeah. The moment one says 30, one says 35, the next one says 40, the next one
Right.
50, that type of thing. That's what I love about those. Have you seen those things where you can on TVs on TV where they say they call those companies out and they'll spray your shingles to bring them back to life with the spray? And I'm like, try to convince your insurance company when you're getting to the end of your 25 or 30-year shingle, when my premium goes up because of the roof, tell them, don't worry about it. I sprayed it with that coating. Yeah, see how that works for you. So anyway, so let's talk Zinsco. The biggest problem with Zinsco is, and they got a really bad rap, Zinscos are reliable. It's a weird design. It's a cradle design. The biggest problem with Zinscos wasn't, and the folks out there that say they know better are full of shit. The problem with Zinscos was the bus. The bus was aluminum on the original Zinscos. So what happens, it would get pitting in it, right? Pitting all over it. And so it made bad contacts where you're pulling current through the contact would get weak. And so it would oxidize and you get an arc there, and its resistance, I squared R over time as the current went up, the resistance compounded. The problem with that was the bus. So what did they do? They make replacement buses that are copper that go right in there. And Zinscos were just as reliable. But again, I see people that go out there and bash them and say this, but usually it's electricians that just don't like something, or they get something in their head, or they don't do the research. And what they do is they just say, Zinsco bad, this bad, this bad. Look, I love new installs as good as anybody, Preston. I love new breakers and pans. I love everything to be new, but you don't always need it.
I agree with that. And I was happy to hear you bring up thermal imaging, because I use thermal imaging on all inspections and 100% of the time. And it's weird when thermal imaging becomes part of your routine, you get to a point where you can't imagine doing an inspection without it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I can't imagine, I would feel totally handicapped. I'd be like a mechanic with no wrenches.
Now I could put you on a spot, but I don't do that on my show.
No, let's hear it. Come on. Let's have at it.
So every time you use your thermal imaging, do you constantly change the emissivity on your device depending on what you're scanning?
Yes. So I do adjust the emissivity, and you get rusted pipes. You got to adjust that. And the newer thermal imaging cameras, there's a new one out right now that I actually really love. It's an inexpensive one called Thor, the Thor 2.
La 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 la. I don't want to hear about them. Blah 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 blah. We always recommend Milesea thermal cameras on this show because I'm a sellout to Milesea. Somebody told me.
I got 2 Mileseas in my car. They're my backup cameras.
There you go.
Now pass it along to Milesea. I got one gripe with the Milesea.
What is it?
The goddamn things turn off every 10 minutes.
Oh, you can change that.
I tried finding the setting, and it's just like every time I put it in my bag, I pull it back out. I got to turn it back on.
It takes a second, bro. We're saving batteries, bro. We're saving batteries. What I tell you is I use one that I teach with is the TR20 Pro, but I also have the TR384C, which is about $1,100. But their TR20 Pro is the one that we recommend for our thermal imaging program because it's just amazing because it takes 2 images. It takes the actual visual and the thermal imaging, and that's really good for reports. I don't know much about the Thor ones, but it seemed very price conscious. We promote Milesea here, brother.
Yeah, my point was that the thermal imaging cameras are getting better where you don't have to do so much emissivity adjustments. They're getting better. But what I can say is that I was really happy to hear you bring that up because I scan a lot with thermal imaging, not just even the load center. I'm scanning wiring, outlets, you name it, because you find stuff, right? Like
that's why I tell electricians. And that's why we started the thermal imaging. This is not a commercial, okay? Because dun, 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 Paul's got a commercial. Everybody's going to hate me on me. That's why we started the Certified Thermal Imaging program for the CTE program, is because every electrician should be adding thermography. When you're doing a service call and you're charging an hour minimum and you're done in 30 minutes, maybe you just went to reset the GFCI we've been talking about. You should offer your customer a thermal scan and give them their hours worth. That's what they're paying for.
Oh yeah, and thermal imaging makes things that aren't visible. So you could take a picture of it and put it in a report. They see all the pretty colors. They see the glowing hot thing. So it makes you look good and it makes you look professional. But I'll tell you,
don't you hate those TikTok videos where the people are buying them and they're just scanning? Look at my wife. Look at my TV. They're looking at colors. They have no understanding that it's temperature, and understanding the delta T, and understanding peer review, and looking at two different sources and coming up with average.
Oh,
They have no
it
clue.
gets worse. You see the home inspector videos where they're saying, "Look at this moisture stain," but I'm pointing my thermal camera at it and it's not wet. And
Yeah,
you go, "Oh, but 70-degree water looks exactly like 70-degree, drywall."
yeah, it looks exactly the same.
So,
Just because it
right,
may be blue doesn't mean it's a puddle of water. Okay.
right, right.
Yeah. Oh,
But
you'd
what
be
I was going to
interested.
say was,
You'd be interested to know too that over on the thermalelectrician.com, I have over 20 different calculators for thermography that you're free to use. All kinds of stuff, and you can even print them out or even sends reports. So we make a lot of those free for those that are out there doing thermography. In case you ever check it out.
nice. The day that I became a believer in thermography and thermal imaging was the moment that I found a hot spot in a ceiling, could not figure out what it was asked to come back and re-inspect the house. I had permission to do an invasive inspection, which means cut it open. And
Mm.
we were able to find a colony of termites in a wooden beam, and the thermal imaging was picking up the body heat of the wood destroying
I was
insect.
going to say that's a great example of using a thermal imaging in an area where you know that there's an anomaly, and that would be an anomaly. It just doesn't supposed to be there.
There is not a home inspector alive that would have caught that without a thermal imaging camera, period. Like, that
Brilliant.
was one of those things I was so glad that I caught.
And at the end of the day, you have to wonder, Preston, why don't more home inspectors add thermal imaging? It's not complicated. When take a basic course. Hell, I even have a $69 basic thermography course that covers everything a home inspector would need to know as far as looking at pipe, plumbing, mechanical, piping. It's on my website. $69. If you're going to do it, at least learn it.
Listen, to answer your question, I think there's two reasons why more inspectors, and I mean that with electrical inspectors, home inspectors, whatever. There's a couple of reasons why they don't use thermal imaging. And one is because,
Liability.
well, I think a lot of them think these cameras are super expensive
Oh
because
yeah, they used to be.
yeah, they used to be $7,000, $8,000, $10,000.
Oh
It's kind
yeah.
of like radon, right? We used to, a radon mitigation system used to be $20,000, so nobody wants to test for it now.
Right.
But number two is now it's another thing they have to learn
Yeah.
to be accurate with it, right? So there's like two barriers to that entry for them. And for me, what I try to get across to inspectors is, do you know how much faster my inspections are using thermal imaging?
Oh yeah.
Because I can take a picture of a heat register from 40 feet away. I don't have to walk all the way over to it. You know what I mean? Like, there's things that speed up my inspections.
So the good thing about home inspectors is that it's different with electrical thermography, because my cameras, for example, will be very dependent on distance. So it might be, zero point 0.6 meters, 2.5, 3 feet, whatever, is where you're getting your optimum. So I use the 384C, which you can't be any closer than like 9 feet. So it's a further distance version, but it has a lot more pixels, so a lot more identifying spots or temperature variations. But the TR20, and maybe the same with your Thor, is that distance matters. But in home inspections, it's a little different because I'm not necessarily having to get an absolute temperature where we're worried about thermal insulation breaking down or a lug melting down. I just need to see temperature variance. And so distance is not as important of a component until you get down to like the panel where you're looking at lugs or looking at insulation. Then you have to be very careful that you're within the realm of your thermography camera.
That's right.
And people don't know that.
Oh, it's absolutely true. I have 3 different cameras that I use every day, and I use at least 2 of them on most inspections. And so using the right tool for the right thing. But I'm telling you, I'm glad I heard you say that. And if you guys are doing any sort of electrical work or inspections or anything, please do yourself a favor, get a thermal camera and learn how to use it, because you are going to be a more valuable professional at that point. Now, here's another thing that I think a lot of this applies to electricians. So, and I'm going to say this right now, electricians I think too many electricians see themselves as service providers. They're just there to do the work. But when it comes to electrical systems, there is a professional consultant component to that. They're relying on you for your expertise. They're relying on you for your recommendations. You're not just there to plug wires in and twist wire nuts. You're there sometimes to give the best advice. So I think there's a lot of contractors, and I see it with electricians. Electricity is a very complicated thing. Like, there's so much to what you guys do. The NEC is like I mean, it's a rabbit's hole. I mean, it's a
Piece of,
very comprehensive.
piece of cake.
You know, you look at other code systems, the other code books out there, and they're just not like the NEC, right?
It's a whole different language. I get people ask me all the time. It says, "Why don't y'all write the damn code book so that's easier to understand?" More like and we are doing that in the 2029 is trying to make it more logical flow, not changing the technical stuff, but more logical flow. But you know what? If it wasn't technical, then everybody'd be doing it. And homeowners already try to do enough stuff that it needs to stay technical.
I agree 100%. And I think,
But you are right about electricians as well as anything. And I think the one big thing I get from people, electrician says, "I'm not here to educate and teach." That's bullshit.
no, I agree.
You're an electrician. You're there to educate. You're there to teach. You're there to mentor. You might say you work for somebody and you might say, "That's not my job." It is always your job. If you work for somebody, and I expect you to do that because I expect you to carry the mantra of the company.
Yeah.
So
and that's that professional consultant layer I was talking about. Like really good electricians, that's what they are. They're educators. They're advisors. They're not just there to do manual labor.
Now, the scary part is, though, Preston, there's a lot of them on social media that probably should not be teaching people. But if you read the comments enough, you'll really cringe. I stopped replying to a lot of comments because, like, it's exhausting, and grounding and bonding. I serve on that panel, and I hear the weird stuff, and I just cringe when I read some stuff. It almost goes back to them saying electricity is trying to get to the earth, and I'm like, it's never trying to get to the earth. We're not talking lightning here, so it's trying to get back to the source. But I see so many things, and I'm just like, whatever.
Yep, it's
trying. All right, what other questions you got?
All right, what other questions did I have? When it comes to Zinsco, is it? I believe Sylvania is still making modern panels with Zinsco technology. Is that right?
I don't know that they're making the bus design anymore. I can't answer that with any specificity on it. I do know that there was really nothing wrong with the cradle design. It was always the bus. If you think about it, inside of the Zinsco that cradles the breaker, for those that aren't familiar, it's usually two vertical poles, and the breaker slides over it. So it kind of goes up in it. It's really no different than the traditional breaker that we do now, the BR style or whatnot, that actually goes against the bus, right? Really not much different, except this is embedded into the breaker. It's further into the breaker. So the design itself is not so bad. The problem with is the limiting number of devices you can get in there because it takes up the whole, the gut of everything. So it's usually design limited, but I don't know if anybody's still making that design today. I know you can buy replacement breakers. I know you can buy the replacement buses, that type of thing. But I just don't know if they make that design. I know in Canada they still make the design for the stab lock, but and Square D still makes it. But I don't. It's called Pioneer, by the way, in Canada. Federal Pioneer, I think. But at the end of the day, I don't know about the Zinsco, whether they make that anymore.
Well, the last question I had, it's funny how you sort of preemptively covered several of the topics that I had written down.
It's usually the home inspector topics, they're usually the same questions they always have. Like you should get the one where you got the old houses like you do that have no grounding electrode system on them, and people say, it won't work. And I'm like, why does the earth component have anything to do with the system working? It has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with lightning. It has everything to do with establishing a voltage so that it doesn't creep outside of expected norms, stabilizing the system. But there's plenty of older homes out there that have no grounding electrode system and they work fine. Should a home inspector recommend a grounding electrode system? I believe they should. But I don't call it out as a flaming defect.
Right.
I let the electrician explain it to them so that I don't step on toes. That type of thing. What is Crimson Ace says, mentioned again? The hell does that mean?
You mentioned Canada again.
Oh, Canadians. Okay. Yeah, I love Canadians. I just don't like their government. Of course, I don't like Never mind.
I don't like any government myself. So hey, I'm just I'm not a right or a left. I hate all of them. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
53 years old and I've never seen a government that actually helped me. So I'm just kind of in that.
I'm a Republican. People know that, but at the end of the day, they're just as damn crooks. All of them up there, like Lindsey Graham. What a crook! It just talks more shit and doesn't get nothing done. They're all full of it. I bet these guys that have been holding these hearings forever. What is it, Comer or whatever? Comer and all them. They're so full of shit, and they're Republicans too. They're all full of it. All politicians are full of crap. Okay.
This is what I'm saying. I just hate them all. So I will tell you, I'll put myself on record here. I did political consulting for over 20 years, and it was for exclusively Republican candidates at a firm in California called Paramount Communications. Okay. But that was actually part of why I just became a government hater. It was like
you learned the truth, right?
Right. You work on their campaigns and you see through all the theater bullshit, and you just go, it's all theater, like on both sides of this stuff. Here's what I'm going to say. If you want to get into politics, great. We're going to get into politics, Paul. Here's what I'm going to tell you.
This is where the show goes to shit, folks. Just in case you're tuning in.
Here's the secret that nobody knows. All of the people on the right are going to show you the craziest shit and tell you this is liberals and this is how liberals are. And you're going to go, oh, everybody on the left is crazy. They're all going to send their kids to school. They're going to get sex changes in third period. And then all the people on the left show you the craziest stuff about the right. Oh my God. So we have this weird idea about Americans, but the funny thing is there's this 80% in the middle where most of us agree on most things. Mm-hmm. And we have more in common with each other. 80% of Americans, whether you identify as a Democrat on the left or a Republican on the right, 80% of us have more in common with each other than we do with those bastards that are running the show at the top.
Yeah.
Right? Those guys with their yachts and their offshore accounts and all that stuff, we have more in common with each other in the working class than we do with any of those people.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I checked out of it. I was like, I'm not playing the game anymore.
Well, right? I'm a little pissed because I moved back to Virginia, and Virginia's going to crap, right? They want to take away the fact that I can shoot my gun on my 3 acres of property because now you got to have 5 acres. They want to limit the amount of how many rounds I can have in my magazine. And I'm sitting there going, dude, they actually are trying to get rid of gas leaf blowers. I'm like, y'all ain't got better shit to do than that. It sounded like California, but at the end of the day, enough politics. Well, did you have any other question?
Let's see. What was my very last? I had one more question for you.
The reason I say that is because if you go online and ask, what is the opinion of Paul by AI, it'll come back and say he's a great educator, but he talks too much about politics. I was like, well, shit, it's my channel. I can talk what the hell I want to talk about.
Paul, what I think we need to get into now is religion.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. I always tell people when we went into Masonic Lodge, you can't talk politics, you can't talk religion. That's just because that's the quickest thing that takes everything to crap. Okay, so we all should treat the world like a Masonic Lodge, and that way we're all together. We don't talk politics or religion, and we're all going to be good. We all get along.
I'm old enough to say I missed the day when we were all Americans and could talk about things without hating each other. It was a good time. I miss it. All right.
All right. What's next?
We're kind of at the, we're running here towards the end. So in conclusion, what I want to do is I kind of want to circle back to the beginning.
Okay.
We got that whole controversy going on. I want to reiterate the conclusion of this. Number one.
For those that came in late.
Right. For those that came in late. Number one, the proper way to test GFCI is to press the test button on the receptacle itself, correct?
100%.
The proper way to test downstream receptacles of the GFCI is to plug your tester into it and press the test button on the GFCI that's upstream from it, correct?
Correct. All you're looking for is to see that the lights go off the tester.
Thank you. So that was my...
You're going to take that? Are you going to do a snapshot of that and post that over and over on your social channels? Like boom, boom,
on
boom.
loop. It's just going to be an endless loop. Okay. Part 2 of my video where I said... mostly accurately. So I should have covered all bases of what I said. Now,
You know better now. When you do a video, the moment I do a video, somebody will mention something that wasn't even part, but they're like, you should have said this. And I'm like, dude, I've only got a few minutes. I can't cover every freaking thing. But they all want to be a critic, Monday morning quarterbacks. Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to tell them that you use the test button on the GFCI receptacle, not the test button on your plug-in tester. And all the people, the 80% of the comments that all said it was related to ground. And I was trying to make a point that GFCI testing has nothing to do with ground. Now, if GFCI protection required ground, the NEC, the code, the municipalities would never allow a GFCI protected receptacle to be in place of an open grounded tube.
Well, I guess we should just go on and let's close that loop by going and looking at the NEC. Right?
Nice. Here we go.
Let's close that loop. Okay, so we'll go to 406, right? And we'll just get rid of this. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so for replacement, okay, because that's the only reason you'd be doing it, right? You're replacing, what is it? To do-it-yourselfers? They love to the flippers, right? They'll go and you'll see a 3-prong receptacle and you'll think, oh, look, it's all good, right? And then Preston comes in there, shows them the error of their ways, and then they go, wait a minute, what can I do to make it safer than what it currently is? Well, if I'm going to replace that, because the code clearly allows you to replace it with a non-grounded type receptacle and leave it. If it was compliant at the time it was put in, guess what, folks? For those that don't like this, it's still compliant today, right? If Preston walked in there and said that was a violation, he would be wrong because it is still compliant today, even though it wouldn't be permitted to have that circuit without an equipment ground today. It's still compliant. Code's not retroactive in this one. There is some areas where it is retroactive, like SPDs and replacing of services and yada, yada, yada. This is not, okay? So can I replace a non-grounded type with another non-grounded type? Absolutely, if I want. Just don't try to mislead people by putting a 3-prong receptacle in there when it has no equipment ground.
And that was the point right there. So that is something I encounter every day of my life is these old vintage homes with 3-prong receptacles that have no ground. And I have to tell people every day, that's a safety hazard. That's not code compliant. However, best practice is to run equipment grounds, but there is a code compliant way of making this more safe by adding GFCI protection.
Yeah, and that's the key.
Right. So when you know that in your head and you try to make the point that all of you people that are saying this GFCI problem that I'm having in this video must be ground related, you are completely missing the point. You want to go down this rabbit's hole of criticizing me over, no, GFCI protection on an open ground isn't always acceptable. Of course. Okay, it's not always acceptable.
What does this say?
They wouldn't allow it ever if it required a ground.
Okay, yeah, right. Well, here's what does it say right there in blue? It says, where attachment to an equipment grounded connector does not exist in the receptacle enclosure.
Right.
What are you supposed to do, folks? Preston does old homes, right? So this is not to take away the fact that you're now required to have equipment grounds, but you will run into this situation. Now, this was the code that you were referring to. So you can take a non-grounding type 2-prong, right?
Yep.
And you're permitted. Again, so this is a permissive language, not a requirement. Right. It would, if it was required, it would say it shall be required. It's permissive.
Yep.
So
shall
permissive.
Is a legal term. Shall means no other option.
All right. So it says it shall be permitted to be replaced with a ground fault circuit interrupter. Also, notice it doesn't say GFI. It doesn't say ground fault interrupter, right? Okay. It says GFCI, folks out there. Learn the terminologies. Stop calling it GFI, although we're not going to harp on you because, like, you call subpanel. We had people in the day that said, oh, there's no such thing as a subpanel. Well, it's a sub-distribution of the main panel. That's how we got subpanel. I don't lose any heartburn over it, but it is a distribution panel. It is a remote distribution panel, but there are people out there at one time that would freak out because people call stuff subpanel. Look, I'm a realist. I know what you're talking about. So I'm not going to flame you because you call something a subpanel. Shit, I do it just because I know that's what people know, right? Now, if you do what you say, Preston, then it says these receptacles or their cover plates shall be marked. 1, no equipment ground, which usually comes with a label inside of the box of the GFCIs.
Yep.
It has to have that on there. And it says an equipment grounding conductor shall not be connected from the ground fault circuit interrupter type receptacle to any outlet supplied from the ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle. Okay? So at the end of the day, you're not branching out. This GFCI is for that downstream that does not have an equipment ground present. That's what it is.
Yep. Okay. And now stop there for a second, because that no equipment ground marking,
right here,
the sticker, the decal, whatever you want to call it,
which is going to disappear. Which is going to disappear the day after inspection. Just by the way.
Right. Well, that was something. It was funny when I look at the comments in those videos right now. I don't know what it's up to now. It's over 70,000 views. It was only at 15,000 this morning. But when I see the comments now, there are still people chiming in saying, Preston, you're an idiot. You're wrong. Even if you were right, it would need a sticker on the outside. And I have to go, did you guys see the video?
They don't watch it, dude.
It's grounded. There's a ground wire. I checked continuity. I checked to make sure that it wasn't bootleg. So I don't know why we're down this rabbit hole of all this grounding discussion and stickers and the whole. I'm just like,
because the electrical trade loves to argue. You don't hear plumbers or mechanical guys arguing. It's the damn electricians. They want to argue. Everybody knows everything, and everybody's got something to say about something so that they can do this. Oh, I know more than you know. And I'm going, how about they shut up and just learn a little bit? That might be.
That was that thing. It's like, it's weird how, especially on social media, Paul, you get this too. There are people that are just salivating and waiting to pounce on you for just saying one wrong word, man.
Oh, they're waiting for it, baby. Bated breath. Bated breath, you know?
Right.
And I tease it because I do that to prove that point. When somebody will do something and they'll call a receptacle an outlet, and I'll laugh and I'll just go, it's not an outlet. We have a defined term for an outlet. You call it outlet. I call that. We joke about it. We know what we're talking about.
Listen, I know what a hot water heater is. Yes, I call it a water heater. You can call it a hot water heater if you want. I don't care.
It's got cold water in it for a while.
I don't care. You can call it a GFI. I really don't care. Like, I have no issue with that.
Yep.
So it doesn't bother me. So Crimson Ace says, a lot of us did say that you were correct. And he's right. There were a lot of people defending me in those comments.
There's always some love, but it mixed in with the hate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Crimson, fist bump. Thank you very much.
Virtual bump.
Yep. Yeah. And then down here,
Gab, what is that? I think we answered that earlier, but he probably came in late. Would it still trip the test button if pushed without the ground? Absolutely.
Yep.
That's why the code allows you to use it in lieu of not having an equipment ground, because for him, he probably came in late. The GFCI devices will shunt around the toroidal coil to the neutral. Doesn't need the equipment ground. Correct. So it does it enough so that the toroidal coil will sense an imbalance.
Yep.
And that's what trips the GFCI. The testers shunt it to the ground, equipment ground. And if there's no equipment ground, that's why the testers can be fooled. And you say, well, mine works. It's probably because they might have a bootleg where the equipment ground is connected to the neutral and the testers work. That's why those
testers can be different, Paul. Like some testers will shunt that differently, right? So they're not all the same, and they're not all. This is why I carry 2 in my tool bag at all times.
I have a Sure tester. A Sure tester wouldn't be fooled the same way.
That's true. That is
much more complicated device, much more expensive, and they break easy. In my experiences, I broke tons of those. But Sure Test from Ideal is a great tool for inspectors. It can identify things that the little 3-light testers cannot identify.
Yeah, they're a little cumbersome.
Yep.
They slow you down, but this is why I don't use them regularly. And there's other methodologies that are faster and just as good.
Yep.
But I'm going to say this to everybody watching this video that gave me shit in those videos from this week.
You had to bring me on to give a comment on that. Okay,
I had to do it, Paul. Sorry, man. You're my defense here.
All right.
Everything I said was accurate in that video. That the proper test is to plug your tester into the downstream.
Do you feel better now, Preston? Does that make you feel better? Can you do this now? Can you go?
I can see. I've been healed.
Oh yeah, or you could do like me, just block them all. Shit on it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's you
Anyway,
and I
well,
have that similar. It's funny. There's a lot of people from Arizona that I just click block, block, block. I, I was looking at my
dude,
block.
they're already making a video to slam us. They're already in the it's probably being made as we speak,
The
right?
most controversial thing I ever said, I still stand by it. The thing that I get the most shit from those people, I still stand by it.
All right, what is it?
It's the screenshot that lives in his head that he recycles every single 3 months. What I was saying in a discussion on Facebook, we were
Oh, here you
talking
go.
about.
Here's your chance to set the record straight on something that the guy posts all the time. Go ahead.
Here we go. All right. There's a lot of people out there that accuse me of not walking roofs, which is funny because I walk roofs a lot. The thing is, what
Shit,
most
I'd use
people
a
don't.
drone today. Shit.
But listen, hey, 100% of my inspections start with the drone. 100%. I always start with a drone. Why? Because that drone allows me to see a lot of stuff before I go climbing up there. And it also gives me an actual photographic record of every single square inch of that roof. And I do 3 levels of drone photography, including up close. We're talking 12 inches away from every shingle.
Hey, you're a good drone operator.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm
Shit, I got 3 drones. I'd wreck every damn one of them.
I'm doing right now a training course for the video for roof inspections with a drone. All right, but here's the thing. What most people don't think about is that the area that I live in, you know these 200-year-old farmhouses I was talking about?
Yeah.
Almost all of them are 3-story, 10, 12 pitch, slate roofs. Nobody's walking those.
No, because the moment you walk it, just like electricians, the moment you touch it and something that goes wrong, you're to blame.
Well, not only that, but you can't go 3 stories up on a 10, 12 pitch. You're going to fall off and kill yourself. So most of the inspectors in my area use binoculars from the ground because that's what their license and the standards of practice allow. And I call bullshit on that. So a drone is superior to that because I can get 12 inches away from a defect and take a photograph of it. Now, what I said in this big, long debate on Facebook was technically walking a roof is, so home inspections are supposed to be visual, non-invasive, non-destructive. Okay. Yep. It's the core bedrock of what a home inspection is. Mm-hmm. I was making the argument that technically speaking, because what was happening was Texas and Trek is trying to mandate and force home inspectors to walk all roofs. The problem is it actually breaks one of those tenets because walking the roof 100% of the time damages it. Just a little bit, you knock 2 granules off, you have technically been destructive. Okay. So it was a legal discussion, and we were talking about this going, if you want to argue with Texas, you could tell them walking the roof always damages it. And it does. I'll tell you this, floors are made to be walked on, but you still see walking paths and wear on the floor. Mm-hmm. Okay. You get up on a roof, especially in the hot areas, you can see where people have been walking around that roof a lot because it knocks granules off, it damages shingles. So
I don't want to reduce the light. I'm there to do an inspection. I'm not there to reduce the life effectiveness of that roof. Okay.
Right. It's 110 degrees outside and I'm going to climb up on an asphalt roof and walk around and you're going to see my footprints in it sometimes.
Plus I'm fat as shit. What am I doing on the roof? I'm just saying. I mean,
so my point is this, is that I have very thorough roof roofs, but you make a statement like that. You say, technically speaking, walking on a roof always damages it. It does. You're not going to climb on an asphalt roof without knocking some granules off. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I don't walk roofs. That means I walk every single roof that I can get on, and it's safe to do so.
Sure.
6 months out of the year, you can't walk roofs in my area because they're snow covered and have ice on them.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can't expect what you can't see.
Right. And the other 6 months, only about 15% of the roofs are even walkable. So what are you going to do? You're not going to use a drone on those roofs. You're just going to tell them binoculars from the sidewalk.
Were they bashing the fact that you use a drone?
Yeah. No, that was really what was happening. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So I was being called a hack because I use a drone for roof inspections.
Dude, I'm called a hack all the time. I love it.
So here's the controversial statement.
Okay, here we go.
Every inspector in the world that says walking the roof is the best inspection is wrong.
Yeah. Because it's all relevant.
Walking the roof and using a drone is the best inspection. Yeah. So if you're only walking the roof and you're not documenting every square inch with your drone, here's what I will tell you. occasionally, maybe once per quarter, I will walk a roof. I will find every possible defect I can, and I go home and analyze the drone footage, and I find something I didn't see because my eyes are 6 feet off the ground, and my drone was 12 inches away from that shingle.
Hey, look, I've been an inspector. I've been through a lot of things. My house in Texas, before I moved, I used my drone to inspect the roof for shingles that I could document shingles that were missing.
Yep.
Folks, I'm gonna let you know. Yeah, okay. Remember, Paul can't do because he teaches, right? He can't do. My house was 3 stories up. It's a 3,800 square foot house. It was 3 stories up. If I fell off that sumbitch, I'm dying. And I'm telling you, I've got a wife to take care of. I'm not going up there just to look and see if I had some shingles missing. So I took my drone up there. And looked at it and was able to zoom in and go in, and I found shingles missing. I found issues that I could let the people know when we were listing it, what they had to come and fix. They knew ahead of time what shingles they needed to replace. I had it all done for them. And the guy was like, "You walk the roof to take those?" I'm like, "Hell no, I used my drone to take them." So yeah, so we take away from today, home inspectors, they want to enhance their abilities, learn to use a drone, learn to embrace thermography. And obviously, I guess with drone, are you a certified drone pilot?
I am, yeah. FAA Part 107.
So me too. I'm probably not renewing that because I don't do that stuff anymore.
And for all you naysayers that don't believe me, I'm going to whip it out.
Where is it? It's got the little hologram on it.
There
it is. That looks like mine. Turn it over. It'll tell you what it is. On the back, it'll say US something, whatever drone you are, whatever. There you go. I got one of those too. Yep. So people are aware of that. If you're going to charge money for droning or charge money for putting videos online with your drone, then you can be subject to FAA coming after you. I think they have bigger fish to fry, probably. But
don't get me started about the stupidity of the requirement, because I'm going to tell you right now. we fly a plastic.
You have to learn all of those different zones. Look at that. You got like mine. I have the one. It's under a certain size. I'm sitting there going, but wait a minute. To take the course, I've got to learn Class A airspace, B, C, D, overlapping near airports.
Oh, I was just going to say that. I go, dude, this is how stupid the whole thing is. We have to learn fixed wing aircraft aerodynamics. We have to learn
how to approach an airport, how to land airport
with flight towers to fly a plastic toy 20 feet in the air.
Yeah. And as an inspector, all I'm doing is staying as close as I can to the roof so I can get a reliable image. It's incredible, right? So,
Paul, it was good talking with you tonight, man. I enjoyed being on. We got to do this more often.
Absolutely, all kinds of topics. Okay, it didn't have to just be debates. So we'll go on and we'll wrap it up here. So folks out there, hopefully Preston, we answered those questions for you. I will encourage you folks, if you want us to do more stuff, let us know. I also have the Let's Ask Paul on our website where you can post questions and whatnot. And I'm more than happy to tackle those in videos. We're back into that gearing mode. I told people that 2025 was the year where I was busy creating courses and all this kind of stuff. And 2026 is the year where I get back to educating and doing more videos and more training and more interaction. And so that's what we're doing. We're doing more of it. So you've probably seen more of this in this month than you saw in the last couple months before the end of the year. But it's also nice to have somebody else to talk to rather than me just talking head all the time.
And Paul, you're an asset to the world. Needs more people like you, man. You try to help everybody. I appreciate you.
Hey man, don't say that. I keep a connection to my haters out there. Okay, I've got so many. I got haters that don't even. I have haters that I even help them get their license. That I even help them develop their online presence, but they won't even mention me in a podcast because they're afraid to give any kudos to the guy that helped train them.
If you don't have trolls and haters, you're not trying hard enough.
That's right. All you gotta do is watch CNN, MSNBC, and all that to realize that's true. All right, my friend. Well, hopefully, folks, you got something out of that. Preston, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'm glad we could get that knocked out for you.
Thank you very much for having me on, man. I enjoyed every moment of it. Thanks, Paul. You're the best.
All right, folks. Till next time, stay safe. God bless. We'll catch you on an upcoming episode of Coffee Hour. And just might have Preston back on. Take care. God bless, folks.